civilian, you went about your daily work, all the time consciously or unconsciously obeying certain rules and regulations laid down by the civil authorities and considered by them to be necessary for community life. When the traffic light was green, and when it changed to red, you stopped and waited. You probably queued up to get your ticket and had to be at work in time. In fact, in many ways, your civilian existence was limited by rules and regulations. When you joined the Women's Auxiliary Australian Air Force and customs, so necessary for the smooth working and efficiency of the Air Force, these service rules are handed down to you from the King through Air Board at F's headquarters and delegated to you through groups to your flight NCO. And finally, they reach you. Here you see the commanding officer giving orders to the section commander, who in turn passes them on to the flight NCO, who then gives the orders to the flight consisting of airwomen such as you. This is the chain of command. It is your job as an airwoman to obey all commands given to you. At Air Force headquarters is the director of WAAAF, who is the head of... She coordinates all matters concerning both officers and airwomen. The capacity to obey an order unhesitatingly and implicitly is known as discipline. In the Air Force, a high standard of discipline must be maintained if we are to achieve our aims without loss of time and effort. The keynote of the Air Force is efficiency, and success is obtained only by each individual member being an efficient part of the whole. The degree of efficiency will depend largely on the standard of discipline. How is the high standard of discipline in the Air Force obtained? Look at these new recruits arriving by tender at a training depot. Notice their hesitating and lackadaisical manner, their incapacity to do things in an orderly fashion, the way they seem to flop about. They have no idea of doing the same thing at the same time, nor even, of all, turning the same way. In fact, they do not move as a coordinated whole. Compare them with these smart, alert and disciplined airwomen in this flight about to leave the depot on posting. They too were recruits a few short weeks ago. How has this change from a rabble into a disciplined whole brought about? One of the new recruits may be you, no longer a civilian, but now an enlisted member of the Air Force. You change into your uniform as a member of the WAAAF with pride and joy. But how do you become an efficient airwoman with a keen sense of discipline and a high state of morale, that self-imposed discipline in the face of heavy odds? What brings about the change in you yourself? What fits you to take your place in such a flight as this? It is the recruit training course, which acts as an adjusting spanner before you go to your job in the service. Here comes the flight sergeant to instruct you in drill, an essential part of the course and the best instrument of discipline. Perhaps you are in this flight of new recruits. The flight sergeant shows you the various movements involved in drill. In carrying out her orders, you will learn instant and implicit obedience to commands given, which is the essence of good discipline. At first you are slow to respond, and you make mistakes, but as time goes on you begin to move more smartly, and you learn to carry yourself and your uniform in the manner of all WAAAF. You become more alert mentally, and your physique improves so that important changes are seen in you, which will help to build you up into an efficient airwoman. The squad now moves as a whole and develops that keenness and smartness seen throughout the WAAAF and on which efficiency depends. Each member holds herself well, shows pride in the service, and moves as a part of the whole flight. Drill also develops team spirit. There's a true fascination about being a member of a squad which moves as one man to an order given. You too must try wholeheartedly to achieve perfection in your drill, as it is the instrument by which discipline is learnt. Team spirit is also produced in games such as this. Each member of the team is not playing for herself, but cooperation with her teammates brings success to the side. This team spirit is vital to the achievements of the Air Force. The members of an air crew work together as a team to carry out successful operations. On the ground, the flight mechanics pull together, repairing and testing the aircraft engines to ensure the safety of the air crew, all showing that team spirit which results in the Air Force gaining its goal. On your recruit training course, you also learn the value of physical fitness, and every day you do rhythmical exercises to tone up the body generally. The importance of this open-air exercising cannot be overemphasized. Together with balanced food, it builds up the tissues and stimulates all parts of the body so that you become alert and efficient on whatever job you are doing in the Air Force. You become a happy being instead of a disgruntled one. These airwomen thoroughly enjoy the time given to physical training on their unit. You attend lectures on the value of discipline and morale, on Air Force customs, and how you set about applying for leave. In fact, on all Air Force matters which concern you. You will learn aircraft recognition in order that you may better appreciate the exploits of those gallant airmen you are working to keep in the air. Someday, too, you may be in such a locality that you are able to recognize an enemy plane and be of still greater assistance to the war effort. But unless you show that alertness and keenness to learn, both obvious in a disciplined person, in such an instance, you probably would not bother to recognize the plane. Your opportunity would be lost, and untold damage might result from your inaction. In learning unarmed defense, you are once more gaining knowledge useful in an emergency. The execution of it requires a great deal of skill, self-control, and above all, a feeling of anticipating success. A high standard of discipline is required in each individual if a station defense scheme is to be carried out efficiently without loss of life and casualties. The air raid warning sounds, and immediately the airwomen pour out from the buildings into the trenches in an orderly way, without panic and as quickly as possible. What a short time it takes to complete the evacuation. These are disciplined airwomen. See how they return in a business-like way when given the all-clear signal. While this is going on outside, emergency posts are being manned. Shelter parties collect their equipment and proceed to casualty areas. A casualty is brought into the first aid post and is quickly tended by the sister and nursing orderlies, while a sick quarter attendant prepares stimulants and dressings. What prompt action is required to deal with such an emergency? Such action is dependent upon the self-discipline of those taking part. Slackness and slowness in carrying out an order given by the sister may end in disaster. When you pass out from this depot, you go full of confidence and pride in yourself and your uniform, conscious of the fact that you have learnt what discipline is and have seen some application of it already. But what has discipline to do with the service job to which you are going? What is your war job in the WAAAF, each and every one of you? You are in the WAAAF in order to keep men flying, to keep planes in good order and to keep them in the air. That is your job. Every time you carry out an order efficiently and immediately, you are pulling your weight in keeping an airman flying his plane somewhere in an operational area. Whatever you are mustering and whatever you happen to be posted to, you all have one object in view: to do your best at all times in order to keep them flying. Now you see how important it is to be and remain a disciplined airwoman. Let us look at some airwomen carrying out their daily jobs at various units. and think all the time of the part discipline plays in their work. Here is a flight rigger attending to the wing of a plane. If she is slipshod about her work and thinks, oh, that'll do, or I can't be bothered, she may be responsible for the life of a pilot. See how carefully these two are patching this wing and fuselage. They do each bit thoroughly and examine it, each one checking the other's work. This airwoman, folding up a man-dropping parachute, literally holds the life of a man in her hands. Notice how carefully she arranges the folds and makes sure that they lie correctly as she works. She cannot afford to be casual and lackadaisical about her job. The lesson of discipline has been very well learnt. This WAAAF flight mechanic has a similar responsibility. The RAF fitter gives her instructions, and she goes to it, carrying them out accurately and without loss of time. At this unit, an accident has been reported. The nursing orderly hurries out to the motor transport drivers with instructions. They immediately throw down the books they were reading and without delay hurry off to the scene in the ambulance. Lines of communication. How important they are in a war effort and how easily entangled and broken. Do you know that thousands of WAAF man various lines of communication every day, and that the success of an attack can be measured largely by the security of the messages sent before and during the action? If this telegraphist, working shift work, pleases herself about when she sends a signal, the traffic will become hopelessly jammed. You see her carrying out the orders of the corporal with speed and accuracy. Here are some other signals jobs requiring skill, dependability, and attention to detail. This telegraphist, operating the high-speed machine, records messages received at very high speeds from outlying units. Here, such messages for sending at high speed are being prepared by perforating a paper tape. This airwoman regulates the traffic and works the switchboard of the teleprinters. These are deciphering the headings of signals in order to find out the units of origin. These two airwomen require tremendous patience for their jobs as telephonists. Discipline plays a large part in their service lives. They must carry out instructions given, and more than that, a good telephonist is always prepared to go the second mile. She may be able to find an officer who is wanted urgently by persistently ringing many different officers to find him. Look at the size of the board these two operate. What a tormentor. They surely must possess a real sense of discipline to be efficient. Here you see airwomen working as plotters on an operational board in a fighter sector. They are receiving messages from the controller and marking on the table the position of enemy aircraft. As these are intercepted by our fighters and reports come in, the airwomen make the appropriate adjustments. A mistake on their part may mislead the controller in instructing the fighter aircraft. Motion pictures play a large part in the training of airmen. Clerks of many kinds carry out routine jobs, dealing constantly with matters vital to the working of the Air Force. A man's equipment, his letters, and his pay mean much to him in the front line of action. Are you going to disappoint him? Without good administration, operations cannot be carried out smoothly to a successful conclusion. Napoleon said, with truth, an army marches on its stomach. The quality of the food a pilot eats, whether it is hot or whether it is served up in as attractive a way as possible, are large factors in building up his spirit to fight and conquer. This cook's assistant may well get tired and think she can't be bothered peeling potatoes day after day, but her work is all important. She provides the food for the cook to make into attractive dishes which you see being served out to men back from operational flights. How satisfying it must be to a pilot to know that a good hot meal awaits him at the end of a hard day's fighting. And so you see how necessary all these airwomen jobs are for the success of the Air Force as a whole, and how essential it is for each individual to possess a very real and high standard of discipline in order to carry out the jobs with speed and certainty. These aircraft are safely returning home from an all-day flight. Their engines have run smoothly, and the fuselage and wings have stood up to any strain the pilot may have put upon them. Their crews are well equipped and well cared for, confident that on the ground airmen and airwomen will guard their welfare and give of their best, because they are disciplined members of the RAAF whose aim is to keep them flying.